have to remember. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to set up the Instagram live right now.
Okay.
Okay, let's do the Instagram live. So I called it the spiritual journey of an artist. Okay. And I don't really ask a lot of questions. I really kind of let the person just speak.
Okay. You ready for me to?
Yes, you can go. Yeah, I'll do the introductions. Okay. Um, and we are about to go live. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this week's Transformation Thursday. And of course, we're in divine time. That's my reason, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you for joining us. This is week 142. And this evening, we are going to discuss the spiritual journey of an artist. And our speaker this week is Bronx, New York based Miss Gevone Alexander. I'm sorry, multifaceted Bronx, New York based artist, Miss Gevone Alexander. So, Miss Bond, you can just take it away and tell us your story about everything art.
Okay. So I guess I'll start from the beginning of my journey as an artist. Like that would start with childhood and just when I was a kid, I never really knew what the definition of what an artist was, but I knew I liked to create stuff and work with my hands and create images. And so, I began with drawing and, I had no other people in my family that were artistic or creative in any way, except for one family member I wasn't, exposed to a lot. So I had no reference point and no like knowledge of what it meant to be an artist, but basically knew that it was something that was like a force that was pulling me towards doing it. So anything that I could get my hands on that I could transform, I did so. So like I said, I started out with drawing, and because I was a big cartoon kid, that's where I started. I would draw when I would watch cartoons, I would just draw them. And, over time, I wanted to make my images a lot bigger. So it got to a point where you on the phone? Yes, I'm on Zoom. Sorry. So I wanted to make my images a lot bigger, so that transformed into me starting to work with paper and creating larger scale works and collage and things of that nature. So from there, I think like when you talk about a spiritual journey with art, my spiritual journey with it was really just like trying to define the thing it is that I was doing and what it meant and what's the definition of it really. So it wasn't just inclusive on just creating images. Like I loved fabrics and textiles. So I would do a lot of knitting work and creating outfits, costumes and things of that nature. So.
Okay, family.
Oh yes, listen. So
okay, you can continue. I'll just mute.
Okay, so so moving forward, I think my spiritual journey with it was just discovering what being an artist was. So I remember like my art supply store was like Walgreens and Rite Aid, because those were the only places that I was taken as a kid where I saw drawing materials or crayons, color pencils, and paper and things of that nature. So I remember one day randomly I was downtown with my mom and by Canal Street, and it was a New York famous And every artist in New York knows of this store if they've been an artist long enough. It was a store called Pearl's Paint that was down in Canal Street. And I remember my mom taking me there for the first time. And when I walked in, it was like opened up my whole world as an artist, because it was multi-floors and just huge. And I remember going in and just not even knowing where to start, where to look. And it was like tables of pencils and all kinds of art supplies. And there used to be a guy that worked there, and he kind of looked like some Willy Wonka character, but he had a name tag that said Duke. He was the Duke of Pearl, because the store was called Pearl's Paint. And I remember he saw this, this, how astounded I was. And he pulled me over and he's like, you've never been, he could tell I'd never been in an art supply store before. And he took me over to a big table that had all different types of pencils. And he said, every artist should own an ebony pencil. And I remember having that pencil for so many years, never sharpening it or anything, because I was so afraid not to have that pencil, because it meant I wasn't an artist, And then going from there, I think my steps as through my journey as an artist was when I went to middle school and meeting an art teacher in middle school that kind of gave us the definition of what an artist was and where we should go with it as far as like academics. And so in middle school, I had an art teacher that helped me and other students put together portfolios. And as the years went on and we were getting closer to going to high school, she let us know of opportunities that we could go to an art specialty school for art. So, specialty high school. And so I remember putting together a portfolio and going on auditions at LaGuardia and art and design, and going into those schools was so foreign. Like, I had never been in any type of school other than like New York City public schools. So walking in and the high ceilings and everything is art in the building, it was like walking into Hogwarts for me, like at that age. And I remember going through the interview process, taking tests, drawing, and getting to the end of it. I know I must have had a look on my face that was so overwhelmed and like excited, because one of the teachers there pulled me to the side and he's like, I'm going to give you a tour of the building. And I didn't see him doing that for anybody else. He literally took me around the school and into the different classrooms and showed me, the rooms where they would do figure drawing and painting and different stuff. And I wind up going to a specialty high school for art. It wasn't one of the fancier ones downtown, but I did go to a art and design school. And that started me on a new journey, because meeting an art teacher that understood the importance that it was to being somebody that wants to create. And up until that point, I think a lot of like teachers and family members probably just viewed it as a hobby or something you just like to do, not understanding that it's something that you have to do because it like pulls you towards it, And after high school, during high school, I got into a lot more charcoal drawings, and I wasn't even yet on my journey of painting yet. I had dabbled in it a little bit, but I've never was fully introduced to paint until I think college. So after high school, going to college for fine art, I really was in my element, learning about art from the ground up, taking art history, photography, design, drawing classes, but everything was centered around, what I wanted to do. And I think after that period of time in college is when I really started on a journey of painting. And that's been like, my mainstay and up until now. is painting. But just like moving back towards the spiritual aspect of it, I think that when you're a creative person and you're an artist, you're a creative, there's like I said, there's a pull to do it. It's not like you know you have to do it. It helps you to keep thriving and keep going. And you know, a lot of things happen in between all of this, you know, I'm talking about. So me becoming a mom and like me moving around from state to state, um, there were times where it wasn't possible for me to create. And so around those times, I would say were some of the more um looking for the right words to use. Those were times where I didn't really feel like I was thriving, and being able to be in a space where I could say I was at my optimal self until I got back to creating. You know, I think like when you're a creative, you have a unique ability to hyper focus. And most of the time I was always hyper focusing on my creations. And so when I became a mom, that became my hyper focus, just focusing on being a mom and doing the best I could for, you know, caring for my children, that I moved away from anything creative because I didn't want anything to get in the way of me mothering my children. So during that time when I wasn't creating, I had another focus. And then when my children got older and they went to school, it like came back to me like I wasn't doing the thing that kept me thriving, and it was moving me further and further away from, you know, my life's work. So I eventually got back to it and learned how to find a balance between being a mom and being a creative, which can be very, very sensitive because it's hard to figure out how you can be everything you need to be as a mom and still be able to create, because both things take a great amount of focus and ability to be there and be present and be the best that you can, you know, for your kids and for your practice. So it's definitely something that you have to really focus on, creating that balance. My I think the best part about it is just making my children a part of that journey for me, and you know, supporting them in their artistic endeavors, because they, even though they each have their own thing that they aspire to, they have artistic abilities as well. And just, you know, me being supportive of them in that, and having the art be something that we share together. So painting together, creating things together. And so you know, I ventured eventually into portrait painting has been something that's been a great part of my practice. So when you're painting portraits, it's very, for me at least, it could be a very like it could be something that, like, when I choose a subject, there has to be a level of connection with the person for me when creating. There's always some feeling that I get from a person that I know like they would be someone I want to work with or work on a piece about them. And it's been times where I meet people and I would want to work on a piece about them, but there's something about the energy or the interaction that it, you know, it energetically doesn't work out, you know? So I would say that, you know, in art, there's always those feelings of whether or not you can create something or not. Sometimes I feel like it's almost out of your hands sometimes, when that force pulls you or when it doesn't, you know? But that's why I like trying to move towards looking at art as a therapy, because how therapeutic it's been for me in my life, and how it's basically been like a, saved me in a lot of times of like not knowing which direction to go in, or whenever I'm trying to figure out something in my life or whatever, it's always a constant there that keeps me thriving in a way. And moving into like my recent years of teaching, and I've taught in the past, here and there, but I had a steady teaching gig for a while with kids, and it was really eye-opening, different from doing artwork with my own children, but with other kids that had interest in it and specifically came to learn about what they were able to do, and seeing it from fresh eyes again, like when I was a kid and I had that desire to create images, and not necessarily having an influence there to guide me. I really enjoyed being that person for young creatives that wanted to explore what they could do, and just kind of giving them the freedom to just try it out and try things, and really not really like telling them what to do, but just being there as a guide, and being there as like, someone to give advice, but letting them have creative freedom, even though like some of the classes they had syllabus, they had things we were supposed to be learning at the end because they wanted to track progress and stuff like that. I felt like with young people, they needed to explore what they could do first and have that ability to be a little bit free and a little bit loose with, how they interpret a lesson or a project. And the unique thing about it is towards the end of my time with the kids there, they all formed such an attachment to me, and they were so happy to come to class, that even when they would get picked up by their family members and they would have like a younger sibling or someone there, like they would join in and want to be a part of the class as well. So I saw that it was just infectious, and that style of teaching and letting somebody be free to create was basically a winning recipe, and it really brought back to me about how I needed to be a lot more free and a lot more, less rigid, because when I got into my practice again, I was very, very hard on myself and trying to be like a perfectionist in my portrait drawing, because not for nothing, when you paint an image of another person, there's going to be a lot of different opinions about the likeness, about whether or not a person feels that it looks like them, or their friends or family look at it and say if it looks like them or not. And so I always took it so much to heart that I wanted it to look the best that it could possibly look, or look to capture their likeness as spot on as I could. And that led me to like, not ever really feeling satisfied with my pieces. And so I had made a conscious decision to let myself be a lot more loose, and I let myself be a lot more forgiving, and just, even if it had no features or no fine details, that it was still a good piece. And so, that helped me to develop more in my style. And, I got to a point now where I'm able to like create a portfolio that I'm happy and proud of, instead of focusing on one individual pieces that take me longer to create versus, making works that I'm satisfied with, and that I don't put great expectations on to look a certain way. But it's been It's been really, really a good journey. You know, art has always been there for me to, whether one way or not, even when I wasn't painting, when I was, you know, when I was a new mom, I was still crocheting and sewing and creating clothes for my kids. And like my kids, I like when they were babies, I made them shoes, I crocheted them blankets and clothes, I sewed them dresses. So it was always, the creative force was always pulling me. You know, I wasn't painting, but I was always, you know, creating in some type of way. And um I remember there was a close friend of my grandmother's who was like a mentor to me and always spoke to me about having talents and gifts and how we should allow for those to make way for us in our lives. And, um, you know, looking at it from the spiritual realm of like, you know, if you're blessed with a talent, and it's clear that that's something that you are passionate about and that pushes you and that provides for you, that you should allow it to, you know, let your talents make way for you. And, you know, because I remember coming to him, this is when I was recently, you know, moved back to New York from some time of living out of New York State. And he said to me, he said, you should not be like rushing to go find a job. He said, why should you work as slave somewhere over time, giving them all your time? And not to say that you shouldn't work at a job, period, but like giving them your full time when you have a talent that should be helping to make way for you. And it's a part of, you know, a part of you, and it's a part of your life that you should be making putting amongst your priorities. And it definitely was eye-opening for me when whenever he said that to me, because around that time I was stressing about, you know, what were my next steps in my life. And he was like, you shouldn't be thinking about what your next steps are. You always knew what path that, you know, you should be taking, because it's been something that's been a constant, and you know, since you were a child. So um definitely feel like sometimes we need to hone in on our special talents and allow them to make way for us, to speak through us. Because I feel like sometimes when you're talented at something, that is definitely something that you're being some like greater forces are speaking through you through that talent, whether it be that you're a writer, or you are a person that is good with motivational speaking, or um, even if you're just even if it's taking care of people, or whatever way that you find yourself being good at something in a way. And I definitely would say that I have um, multi-talented, but I think all of these things that I do fall under the same umbrella of creating. You know, definitely it came back to me whenever I started to create products for myself, because I remember you know, wanting to have hair products for myself, wanting to have soap and lotions and different stuff. And I was finding that a lot of things that I was seeing in the store, the ingredients were not necessarily something I wanted to put on my skin or put on my hair. And so for my kids as well. So that's what brought about me starting to make soap and starting to make um, the holistic hygiene products. So whenever am I a full artist? And well, I would
Yeah,
say,
that's a question from someone on Facebook, a person that I know is an artist. Um, that's the question. Are you a full-time artist now?
I would say I'm not a full-time artist right now, but I would say I'm more full-time than I am part-time, you know? Um, so that's something I'm definitely working towards. I think the difficulty in that is um, my returning to New York from living outside of New York and getting back here and realizing the cost of living and trying to adjust to it, because I am a mom, and I have a lot of adjusting to do. And so basically, yeah, I'm not a full-time artist, but sometimes I'm like, when somebody says I'm a full-time artist, I know that the definition is like they don't have any kind of other job that they work at, and they just focus full-time on their art. And in some ways, I feel like my focus is on my art. So I feel like I am a full-time artist, even though I do have a job that I go to. That job is just a means for me to fuel my passion, like to have the means to keep doing what I'm doing. So, I mean, I guess the answer is no, I'm not, but in a way I feel like I am, if that answers it. But yeah, that's been something that I've been working towards, even though like, I'm not new to art. I'm new to the New York City art scene in a way. And I still feel like I'm trying to break ground and get out there and find my voice out there in the art scene and stuff like that. So you know, it's almost like being a brand new artist, and getting my feet wet for the first time. But I think it's a good time because I'm just now getting to a comfortable place where I've kind of released a lot of my perfectionism, and I've allowing myself to be a little bit more free and loose with my style, and not as rigid in criticizing of myself, which I think is a really hard thing sometimes for some artists, and especially was for me, because I was always criticizing and comparing myself. And now I'm getting to a more comfortable place where I don't do that anymore. And I feel a lot better and a lot happier with the works that I'm creating now. But yeah, that was a really interesting, question about being a full-time artist. Like I struggled with that one too, because a lot of my friends that are full-time artists, I admire them so much for being able to like make their living and live their life based off of just doing their craft. Oh, I missed that question. How can I look at it again?
It says, another question, what ways have you found the most beneficial to promote your work?
Okay. Some of the ways I find most beneficial is I would say the first way is that social media, but using social media as a tool for like exposure. And not every artist wants to be a big content creator. I create content with my art, but not like showing my whole process through. Mainly you have to figure out the formula that works for you with your art, because some people, it takes a lot to like create, to film your process, and to like, some people it's kind of private for them. They don't want to have every step that they do out there like that. And I think another step is like really getting out into the public, getting yourself in front of the public. Sometimes I go and paint in the park, and sometimes I will go to like open mics for artists. I think just getting yourself out there and finding a network of other artists that you can connect with and try to do shows and different things with them. So I would say social media, getting directly out there to the public in any way that you can. Like, even if you went outside and set up a table in Union Square or something, and just showed your work that way, just exposing yourself, exposing people to your artwork. So social media getting out in front of the public. And I have a website as well. I wouldn't say that's the biggest exposure that I get, but it's another useful tool. So yeah, I would say those things. But also, like, during, like, 2020 was a really, really good year for me, because I worked on different, like, at least 2 or 3 different murals. And around that time is when I got the most exposure, working on murals and just being a part of collective projects. Because during that, me working on those murals is when I got connected with a lot of the people and a lot of the, like, collectors and other artists that I otherwise wouldn't have met if I didn't get involved in those type of projects. So yeah, definitely, like, sometimes you might have to volunteer, but it would be worth it in the end, I volunteered in Harlem, and that was one of the best experiences. I met a lot of really talented artists and made some really lifelong friends back in 2020. So I would say find some art projects or art installations that might need volunteers, and jump on a board with that, and network, expand your network, make connections with people. It's always a great way of getting yourself connected in the art world. You never know how they can get you connected to your next step towards getting more exposure for your work. So those things definitely helped me. When I had a mural near Columbus Avenue, and that one mural that I put my Instagram on, I had many people reach out to me. So that got me work, that got me connections, and a lot of networking happening through just having my work in a public space. But definitely making good connections, even if hang on one.
So this is Miss Gevone Alexander, and she has a website, Gevone Alexander, as well.
Yes. So even like the website that I have, like on there, I plan on like being able to create networking opportunities on there. I'm going to be trying to create a blog on there, a newsletter, things for people to connect with me with, and eventually having a shop on there as well. And yeah, because trying to create a platform for myself where I could, eventually be more than a part-time artist, But
So this as another question on Facebook, have you had to deal with people stealing your work?
um not that I know of, but the way I look at it is that if I saw work similar to mine, or even pretty closely rendered like mine, I don't think I would ever really consider it stealing, because every artist creates based off inspired by another artist. I know that many of the artists that I have admired since childhood, their influences in my work some type of way, So even if someone created something, or that like they created something identical to mine, I would look at it as they were inspired and they took it and they copied it, And I guess in a way it wouldn't make me feel some type of way, because I'm always creating something new, and anything that's authentic to me will come through and show that way. Someone can take your work and they can copy it. But at the end of the day, are they going to be able to keep on creating unless they keep on creating your work over and over again? They're going to copy you forever. It's not going to come through as authentic. But no, I haven't experienced anybody like stealing my work. I've seen similar stuff to mine's out there, but I never really take it as they took it from me, you know, just as I feel like all artists in a way, we all borrow from each other, whether it be like visual arts, music, everything is sampled and there's really nothing new out there. But, you know, I guess I'm just saying like, I don't really take it to heart in a bad way if I see something that's similar to mine. Because I know I get inspired by other artists all the time. And even though I don't go and like recreate their work, it influences me, whether it's conscious or not, you know, it influences me. Like even some of my artist friends, I'll see their work and it inspires me to go home and work harder on my stuff because I'm like, wow, I want to be in that same element, you know, a part of that same type of flow. And I'll go home and create something. It won't look like their stuff, but it inspires me. So I can understand. And then I think back to when I was a kid and I was first starting out as a young artist. All I did was draw cartoon characters that I saw on TV, and I just copied their work. The artists that I like, Looney Tunes and all the characters that I watched on television, I just recreated that work over and over again. When I look back at my drawings from when I was 7, 8 years old, all of this is Tasmanian Devil and Bugs Bunny and all type of stuff like that. And that's essentially what I was doing. I was recreating until I knew how to create my own. So I look at it like that. That person may be young in their creative mind, and this is how they're developing. Possibly.
So another question, how would you categorize your style of art?
The way I would categorize my style is very much like a natural. It's not like so I do portraits. I do a lot of portraits, but I wouldn't say that I do realism, but naturalistic. It's I don't know if that's a term that's been used before, but yeah, that's the term that I use because I try to capture images, but I don't want it to look so hyper realistic, like it could look like a photograph. I want it to very much be known that it's a painting and that it's, you know, it's done with a level of real, like looking realistic, but not in a photographic way. So I would say my style it's got the naturalistic look, colorful. I really like very pigmented, opaque type of colors. I like everything to look very saturated, very vivid and popping with the colors. And, you know, that's just, you know, part of my style. Fashion and melanated people is what really inspired me. And the type of images I like to make always features that. But I have some of my paintings back here, like this one right there in here. But
That was going to be my next question. If you had samples of your paintings so people could actually see them.
yeah. This is a piece I'm working on right now behind me. I don't know if you can recognize this, Albina.
Oh my gosh. The hair. Okay.
So I have a piece over here I want to show you. It's on the wall though. So this is a painting that's like one of my favorite pieces that let me see. I'm gonna see if I can go show you. Hang on. It's kind of tough because I'm like on my bed. But it's a pretty large piece. So this is a painting I did of Nina Simone. And it's pretty large. And it's a piece that like if most artists have one particular piece that they like could never part with, and that one would be the one for me. And it's, you know, it's a painting I always keep hung up, and like I don't want anybody to like mess with it. And it's so funny because the painting has a very like stern look, and like my kids will always say, I don't like the way she looks at me. She looks like she's mean or something. I'm like, she's there watching you when I'm not here, you know. But yeah. So yeah, I would say that my style is definitely, I love painting people. I love colors. I like everything to look very rich and bright and vivid. And when I first started drawing, when I was like drawing people, like when I moved from drawing cartoon characters to drawing people, I remember I used to go out with my mom, and I would be out all day with her, and I would come home and I would try to remember what people looked like, and I would draw. If I honed in on the way somebody looked, I would kind of try to remember how they look, and I would get home and draw it. And I remember you know, my mom used to always be really impressed by that. She'd be like, you really sat there and remembered what someone looked like to be able to draw them again when you got home. And I was like, it was just something like how I used to sort of challenge myself, you know? And I think when you are developing as an artist, you do different things to challenge yourself. Because at first I used to just exclusively draw women. And then when I started painting, I started to exclusively paint women. And you know, I had like a lot of different ideas in my head what I wanted to be able to do, but I couldn't paint men. And when I did, they would look really feminine. So I remember taking like, I don't know if it was a year or just like 6 months or so, and I exclusively painted and drew just men until I got good at it, and I could make them look masculine and they didn't have any feminine features about them. And like that's how I like kind of trained myself or retrained myself from being so exclusively like focusing on like painting women. And I think it served me well. Like I now I can do both, and you know, there's no kind of like, because I remember one of my mentors, he was a guy, and everything was very masculine about him. And even when he painted women, they looked masculine. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to make men look feminine. So like I had to really focus in and develop that skill of not making men look like feminine. So yeah, I think this is one of the paintings from around that time. It's up there. I don't know if you could see it. I'll take it down. Hang on. You'll probably recognize who this person is, but I was just choosing pictures strictly from famous faces. So I'm pretty sure you know who it is. But I wanted to like pick men that had strong features so I could develop that skill. And yeah, this is one of the paintings I chose around that time. But I'm not sure if there any more questions or.
Definitely a lot of hearts, definitely a whole lot of hearts here. As you were talking, I saw the little hearts floating up. So,
Okay.
um, oh, okay. So Miss Salka says your painting, Nina, was beautiful, and she commented, yes, Biggie. Another question, any particular, oh, I think I put it here in.
Mama. So brands of paint. So I like Liquitex, I like Golden, and those are the more pricier paints. But honestly, when I when I started painting murals, I I um I would go to Home Depot or hardware stores and buy Benjamin Moore paint. That's wall paint for painting in your house or whatever. Because, like I said, I like really rich, opaque colors. And so wall paint is very thick and very pigmented because it's meant to cover your walls. And so it's a good substitute for artist paint because golden and like heavy body paints, they're very thick and pigmented. And so you pay top dollar for that. Whereas you can go to Home Depot and buy wall paint and it has the same same pigmented stuff. But what I would say if you want to go to art supply stores, um, I like Liquitex and Golden, but Artist Loft and um, even the lower ended paints, they work just as well. It's all about the artist more so than it is the paint, because any paint can be layered up to look the way you want it to look. So I'm thinking about like what paints I have. Um, I'll show you. Because I know this paint is called Basic, but I think the basic paint is Liquitex. Yeah. But I also buy store brand paints. Like I will buy, I will buy Blick. I buy their paint, like the Blick's store paint, and works just as well. But yeah, definitely play around with, there's no paint that I would say don't use because I use all different types from cheap paint to expensive paint. You have to find out for what particular project, what you want to use. If you're painting a big wall mural, of course, I would recommend you go to Home Depot and buy Benjamin Moore or house paint. If you're painting small canvas or something of that nature, and because I use acrylic paint, even though I do paint with oils sometimes too, I'm speaking about acrylic paint. When it comes to like oil paint, if the question is about oil paint, I like Winsor Newton and store-bought plant paints like Blick's paint, like their store paint. And what's on sale, like honestly, what's on sale, because to me, all of it is good and all of it is usable. And I don't buy expensive brushes. I do have expensive brushes, but sometimes I'm hard on brushes. So I will just straight up use Princeton brushes, the ones that they sell at Blick, or even some that they might sell at Michael's. Because I think that you don't want to spend a lot on art supplies when you're learning and when you're experimenting, because it's going to be a time when you forget to wash a brush off. It's going to be a time when you leave a brush in your paint water and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it and it could possibly get ruined when you're experimenting and you're kind of like filling yourself around with your work, So yeah.
So, oh gosh, can I wait? Do you see the question in the chat about what do you have to say about the business of art currently?
What do I have to say about the business of art? Okay, I think what I have to say about it is like, it depends on like how do you view your art as a business? Like some people paint in such a way that they want to create merch with their artwork, whether it be they put their stuff on buttons and stickers, or they'll even make put it on t-shirts and different things like that. Some people may feel like they don't want to monetize their work in that way, or they just, the only way that they would like sell their work separately from original pieces is maybe in prints and things like that. The way I look at my work is, in recent time, the way I've looked at my work is that I wouldn't mind my work being a part of other creations, whether I get it printed on fabric or paper or on a button or something like that. The business aspect of it, which is could be tough sometimes for creative people, because not all creative people are business people. You know, you want to focus on creating more so than you want to focus on how do I create a business plan or monetize this, or um, create a create merch around this so that I could like make money off of it. And like just being connected in the art world a little bit and talking with different people who have like mentored people into becoming like full-time artists, I've had a lot of advice be given to me about how to create a business around my artwork. And a lot of it, what was told to me didn't really resonate with me at that time, because that's when I was deeply in my perfectionism and didn't want to like monetize my art in the way that they felt that I should do to become a full-time artist and make money off of it, because I didn't want to compromise what I was doing, because I was very honed in and focused on it being in one particular way. But I think if you're open-minded to the different ways that you can express your work, you can like do all kinds of things with your work. I mean, I've done my research and found all kinds of ways to put artwork on mugs and yoga mats and all kinds of stuff. And I'm open to that type of stuff now that I've become a little bit more free and a little bit more loose in my approach to my artwork. So I think as far as a business is concerned, I think you can definitely evaluate what you think is acceptable for your art, how you want it to be viewed and how you want to monetize it, and work out how you want to like, because I know some of my favorite artists that are like wildly popular and famous, they even have put in their work on towels and merchandise and things like that. And, you know, at first I didn't know how I felt about that, but then I was like, why not? You know, why not? It's another way for your work to be viewed and appreciated. And so definitely I would say from a business standpoint, sometimes it can be tough for an artist to like have to learn how to keep developing their skills and become a business person. You know, not like, you know, it could be tough, but I think it's doable because there's so much available to us nowadays that we don't have to have that mindset. You can literally go on a website or an app and put your artwork on anything. You can get a website free or not. Go and get a website from GoDaddy or get a website from Wix or whatever you want and create a platform for yourself. There are so many different platforms out there like Etsy. You can even sell on Facebook and Instagram. So it's so many, like it's so readily available out there to you to turn whatever art form you do into a business that you know, you don't even have to go the traditional route of having like a plan. You can just wing it, you know, and and learn as you go. But I would say think about how you want it to be viewed, how you want it to be conveyed. Like with me, I definitely didn't want my art to be monetized in a way where it was just like gimmicky. you know, I wanted to like, I definitely wanted to represent, like that's always been my thing. I grew up like my experience with art through school and everything. I was never taught about a lot of things that I feel like are part of art history that wasn't taught in school. So like in schools, you don't hear about a lot of melanated artists until you do that research on your own. So when I was like, I wanted to show, I want my art to represent, I didn't want it to not, I didn't want it to become gimmicky because I had something, that a message that I wanted to convey, and I didn't want it to get lost in me trying to monetize my art. So, you know, it's sort of a, it's sort of a like a little bit of a not an obstacle, sort of like a, you have to approach it in a certain type of way, but definitely doable. Um, as far as like turning it into a business, because every artist is an entrepreneur, whether they know that or not. And you're selling your story, you're selling your brand, which is your style and your art. And it's automatically a business as soon as you start, you know? Every art form is already a business, because whether you're selling your artwork, your story, all of it is something to be consumed. And so you're a business already. Now, whether or not you want to monetize it more by creating some other type of creation or merchandise outside of the artwork is the way you approach it, basically.
Thank you for that. So there's another question here. Are prints included in your business model?
So they are. So, you know, I have, you know, a lot of different advice that I've gotten from different artists and stuff over the years. And so I still consider myself like an emerging artist. So a piece of advice I got was like, hold off from selling your original creations until you have a large body of work, or that you get your name out there enough that you know, because what if I wanted to show my work and I've sold off all of my originals? So having prints is a way of keep holding on to your work so that you can still show your work in galleries, or, you know, if you just want to have a private show or something like that. Holding on to your work is probably important in the beginning, because you don't want to let go of the work and sell it off, and then you have to you don't have it to show. Whereas you can have prints of the work, and even if you limited the amount of prints that you create from your work, you can still be selling a part of your work without losing the original. So yes, prints are a part of my work as well. I've created prints from many of my paintings.
Okay,
But
thank you. Oh, you were, oh, sorry, you were not
oh no,
finished.
no,
Okay.
no, I was.
So someone on Facebook says, I get what you are saying. I felt the same way about avoiding gimmicks, and that makes sense. So another question, what would you say to those who want to paint but are afraid they are not good?
I would say that for a long time, I didn't feel like I was good. And that's what pushed me into a space of like trying to make my work look perfect. And it kept me never finishing a piece. Like even sometimes never even starting on creating something, because I was like scared it wouldn't be up to a certain level. So the thing you should focus on is on creating the work you want to make. And when you focus on just It's not about the skill base. It's not about, I need to make it look like whatever image you have in your head of what you think good work looks like. The work you create is going to be good because you're consistent and you keep trying and you do it based on the skill set that you have right now. If you don't start with the skill set you have now and you try to be something other or whatever you're comparing yourself to, because that's what I used to do. I used to like scroll through Instagram and there's so many artists on Instagram and I would be looking at their work and I would be like, oh, that's how I want to be viewed. And it was stopping me from creating at the skill level I am at right now. And that was hindering me from going forward. And then when I release that energy of trying to compare myself and trying to be at a certain skill level, you have to understand that getting to the level of like, I'm painting hyper realistically and all of this stuff like that, that's an end result. You have to focus on the journey. It's always the journey to get there. And you're going to be so happy when you can be able to look back at your first drawing or painting or whatever you created, and you can see the progression of how you evolved over time. I have so many portfolios even from when I was like in middle school. And I love looking back at the journey of myself through all of these drawings and paintings because it showed that I accepted where I was at that particular time. And I created constantly at that skill level because that level is what you want to show. People nowadays, when it comes to artists, it's not even about the artwork. People get vested in you and your story and who you are as an artist. And it doesn't matter what the work looks like because they want to be there for the journey to see you evolve and change and get better and get better. There's many artists on Instagram that I've been watching for like 2-3 years, and I watch them go from one level, and then I'll see new stuff that they're creating. It's like I get wild, like, wow, that's amazing that they have grown because they accepted where they was when they began, and they still were able to share and have their work out there, and you were part of their journey. And I think that's when people feel a part of your journey as an artist, they get even more connected to your work and they really become a fan of your work, you know? So I would never worry about not being good. That's art. I would say there's a book called The Artist's Way. And anybody that's a creative and anybody that wants to draw, paint, write, anything creative they want to do should read this book called The Artist's Way. Because at first, when I first read this book, when I was younger, I disagreed with this book because I was like, like I'm naturally talented. But this book really talks about art and artistry being something you develop, not something you're born with. Some people are born with some extraordinary talents, but they also had to fine tune that and they also had to develop that talent as well. So that book really talks about painting, being an artist. It's not something you're naturally born with. It's something that you develop. It's a focus. It's something that you decide that you're going to take this and you're going to practice at it and you're going to work at it until you become a master of it. So no, I didn't know how to paint at all, you know, at a certain point in my life. I had no idea, but I knew I wanted to do it and I had such a desire. When I went to art school, I didn't take any painting classes, not even one, you know. I taught myself because I had such a desire to know how to do it that I just sat there and I made busted drawings until I didn't make busted drawings. And that's the journey you have to go through if you love something and that you want it bad enough and that it means something to you. You keep doing it until you get better at it. I never forget, like when I was like maybe 5 years old, I wanted to learn how to like crochet and knit and stuff like that. And I found some yarn at my grandmother's house and I don't know what I was doing, but I was trying so hard to crochet. And I made the ugliest creations possible. And like, I wanted people to wear it. I was like, here, put this as a friendship bracelet, put it on, you know? And they're like, what in the world is this, you know? And I kept on trying until I remember being like maybe 10, 11 years old. And I went to the library, got a DVD and watched a DVD on learning how to knit and crochet. And I took out books and I read them and I taught myself. And then I was just, I didn't even realize that I was getting good until people were like, wow, that whatever you made looks amazing. And I was like, oh, you think it's good? And then like, next thing I know, I'm like, fast forward to right now, there is nothing under the sun that I can't knit or crochet. I have made everything from toys to clothes to blankets, portraits. I've made portraits out of crochet, just because it was something that I had no idea how to do, but I had the desire and the wanting to do it so bad that I said, there's nothing going to stop me from getting better. And I accepted that my skill level was bad, but I was going to keep trying. And you can never say that, oh, I'm not going to be good at it. Nobody's good at anything when they first start. You have to keep putting in the work and love the journey as you're going on it, because you're going to be learning as you go, and you're going to have moments where you create something beautiful and you're going to be like, wow, I'm getting better, and it's I want to show you guys the book, but it's definitely in the journey. It's definitely the journey. I see the book, that's why I'm grabbing for it right now. It's on my shelf. So this is the book right here. It's called The Artist's Way. I read this book when I was a teenager, and at first I didn't like the fact that it said that like there's nothing special about you as an artist, that being an artist is something that anybody can do as long as they're dedicated and they're willing to put in the work toward developing a skill. And I was like, wait, but no, I'm an artist. Like, this is something I was born with, But even if you're born with that desire to do something, some people may be from a small child, know they want to sing. They probably don't sing great when they first start, or they probably sing okay, but you don't think that they have, like, once they decide that they want to pursue this, that they don't get vocal coaches and stuff like that. I'm sure all singers, professional singers or not, went to a vocal coach at some point and they developed that skill to make it fine-tuned and to make it better. Why do people go to art school? Like, I remember when I was like in middle school, and a teacher telling me like, he was like, you want to go to art school? And I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, so you want to be an artist? And I was just so sure. I was like, no, I am an artist. I just want to go to art school so that I could, like, get a degree in it, and like other people will view me as an artist, but I'm already an artist, And I remember I always held on to that. You are an artist if you say you are. And it's just about developing your skills. Even when I went to, I remember recently, like last year, I went to, was it last year? I believe, yeah, last year I went to get my doula certification. And I remember one of the ladies in there said the same thing to me. She said, what makes you want to become a doula? I said, because I am a doula. I'm already a doula. I just need the certification so that other people will see me as a doula, So I think you have to be convicted, like, this is what I am and what I want to do, and I'm just developing my skills. But definitely enjoy the journey of developing your skills, because that's where the good part is. I loved when I first, like, going from drawing with pencils and never knowing that there were other things to draw with. The first time I entered the school, my art high school, and there was charcoal there, and I fell in love with charcoal, because I had only ever drawn with pencils. And so charcoal and pastels, like, you're gonna love the journey, and you're not gonna think about your skill set. You're gonna think about how it makes you feel. That's the therapeutic part about it. You're gonna think about the way it feels and not the way it looks, because everybody has a style, and you have to just develop it.
I like that. Think about how it feels, because I don't know if you're familiar with the writings of Abraham and, Esther and Jerry Hicks. And he always talks about you want to manifest something, you have to get into the feeling of having it and the feeling of owning it, like get out of your head.
Yes, yes, you definitely have to. I think that that's something that I think holds back so many really great artists, is that because like there's an artist like networking thing I used to go to all the time. And I would go there and people would bring their artwork and everybody would like display their work, and we would network, walk around, and we would meet each other and everything. And the people there with amazing, amazing artwork. And they were like, I don't know if I'm ready to show my work or like to be in a gallery. And I would be looking at them like, what? Like, this is some of the best stuff I've ever seen in person. Like, I thought you were already like showing your work somewhere, you know? And that just goes to show. And then when I would talk to them and I would tell them like how I got held back so much because I was always trying to make my paintings look perfect, to the point where I would like ruin them sometimes because I would keep going back and messing with them and messing with them and messing with them. And just to realize that so many other artists and people were doing those same things, not letting things flow and just be what they are, and always trying to fine tune stuff, you know? And I realized that it was important to like accept your skill set, and not to say that it can't get better, but to accept where you're at and just produce at the skill set that you're at. You could make so much more work. You can make so many more paintings if you just accept where you are and let it develop. You know, when I let go of like trying to sit there with a fine detailing brush and make every little eyelash look a certain way and trying to get the every little fine detail to look a certain way, when I let go of all of that, I was like making that paintings that would take me like a month to complete. I was making that like finishing a painting in a few days, you know, or, you know, in a overnight or whatever. Cause like I let go of that perfectionism, you know, and it really is the difference. It really is the difference in not sitting there and comparing and thinking that it's not good. I wish like I probably I wish that I have some of my friends that that go to that networking event with me, and their work, some of them have studios and everything, and their work, they accept wherever they are at their work and they don't compare themselves to the next person. And I just love it because it has helped me so much to let go of like a lot of things that held me back based on me wanting to have a better skill set in my head, what I thought was a better skill set. You know, some of my favorite artists, they paint so hyper realistically, and everything looks a certain way. And I want it to be like that so bad, instead of accepting the way my work was. And people would come up to me and be like, your work is so good. Like, how could you like that, you know? And I think like, you know, sometimes you have to like get real with yourself and be like, um, you know, let go of that, you know, that idea in your head of what you think is good and what's not good. Because art is a journey. It's a therapeutic thing. It's definitely something that's there for you to take care of your mental health. It's like it's your thing. And especially if you want to create, never be afraid to. What's stopping you? If you obviously want to create something, just create it. Don't hold back. Don't wait till I take a class. Don't wait until I find the perfect supplies or perfect brushes. Just start. Just start. I remember I wanted to learn how to do block printing and lino cutting. And I was like, oh, I gotta find videos on YouTube. And then one day I just was in Blick and I bought the supplies. I bought all the supplies and I went home and I just did it. And I cut my fingers and I made mistakes. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos way after the fact, but I did it and it was great and it came out wonderful and people complimented me on it. And I had no idea how to do it, you know, but I just did it. And I didn't try to be perfect, and I didn't try to learn everything, because that's how my mind always works. I want to learn everything about a subject even before I attempt it. And sometimes just try it, just start, get an idea about it, but just start, create a journey for yourself, because that is the part about it that is going to make it more worthwhile. If I never cut my fingers doing lino cut, I wouldn't know, don't be holding the dang on tool towards your fingers, you know? And, you know, not promoting people not to be informed about these things, but I'm just saying it's sometimes it's a lot of joy in the journey.
So there's a comment here. Oh gosh, I think, did I lose it? No, I did not. I did not lose it. It is not lost. Okay. A mentor told me it's best to detach emotionally from your work. He said that you don't have to absolutely love everything that you do. And she also said this is an awesome talk, which I agree. I know you said, oh, what am I going to talk about? I don't have much to say.
um, I agree and I disagree. So basically, like, I remember the first time I had a commissioned piece, I was so over the top ecstatic about it. And I literally fasted. I spent days preparing and doing 1,000 different sketches and stuff, because I wanted to create something that this person that commissioned my work was gonna love. And I emailed them several times and tried to get ideas on what they wanted. And then I finally started the work. And I basically, did all of that in preparation for creating this piece. And I didn't hear from the guy for a whole month. And I started getting worried, does he still want the art piece? And so I reached out to him and he was like, yeah, take your time with it. I'm not rushing you. And the more time I spent with the art piece, the more and I was still going through my perfectionism time. I was adding more details and I was going crazy. I was looking at the painting because my eyes turned into a freaking magnifying glass, because I could see every little thing that I need to change, and I want to make this look better. And I was obsessing over the painting to the point where I literally took it to a friend's house and left it over there, because I didn't want to have it in my possession, because I was going to keep doing things to it. And then I called the buyer and he's like, anytime you're ready, I'm not rushing you. So it was in my possession for so long. I grew so attached to the painting. It was so hard to let it go. And a lot of my pieces were like that. I was really attached to them because I had poured so much of myself in. That's another thing with being a perfectionist, that you spend so much time on the work that you become attached to it. Because just like when you work a 9 to 5, when people work a laborious job, that's why they feel so hurt when they have to go pay their bills, because they're like, I literally I sweated for this money and now I have to give it to somebody. When you put that amount of labor into something, you feel some type of way releasing it to someone else. You're like, oh my God, I literally put blood, sweat, and tears into that. And now someone else gets to just give something monetary and take it away from me, you know? So yes, don't get attached to your work, but I wouldn't say don't feel disconnected from it, because each piece that I create, I have a connection to it, because sometimes it's a portrait and I connect it with the person and they're connected to it. So it's like a full circle thing of me, the person that's connected to it, the work. Sometimes there's either a meaning or there's some reason why I wanted to create the work. Maybe I have a piece of, I was on the train on a shuttle from Times Square, and I saw this girl on the train and I was like, oh wow, I really loved her whole look and her whole aesthetic. And I was like, I just approached her and I was like, hey, I'm a portrait painter. Can I showed her some of my work and I was like, can I paint a picture of you? And she was like, oh, okay. And I remember just taking a picture of her right there on the platform. And I started working. I didn't even start working on the piece until some time later. And then after I started working on the piece, I I'm in love with the piece. You have to be like, for me, it's impossible for me not to fall in love with my work. Not to say that I couldn't sell it now. I could, but I love my work. So like, it's hard for me to say don't form attachment to your work, but don't form so much attachment to it that it's hard to let go. Like when I was talking about the commission piece where I had it in my possession for so long, it was hard for me to let that painting go because I had really put so much into it. Like I had vested so much of myself into it. But then I remember selling the piece, and sometime later, the collector invited me to their house for dinner, and they wanted to introduce me to people that had saw the piece and was interested in meeting the artist. So I went back to the dinner party and I saw it up on the wall. And the first time I saw the piece, I hadn't seen it in like 6 months or more. My heart kind of went, oh, I saw it up on the wall and I was like, oh, I remember like, all the time I spent with that painting. And then I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, this is where it belongs. This is where it belongs. It looked amazing on the wall. So even though I wouldn't say don't form any sort, you have to love your work, attach to your work, pour into it, but don't get so attached to it that you can't sell it. And I say some of my earlier pieces, I probably am too attached to those to sell because they represent the like fragile parts of my journey where I was like still finding myself. But you'll get to a space where, when you're free with your work, when you start to like be free, think about when you were a kid and you could doodle on a piece of loose leaf paper. And if the paper flew away in the wind, you didn't think nothing of it. You have to be that type of way. You put all the work and enthusiasm into creating those pieces, but you didn't like get to the point where like, if I lose this piece, it's going to be the end for my mind. Like, oh my God, get back to that space. Like we need to get back to our childhood artists that could just doodle on 1,000 different pieces of paper and leave them where they are, because we didn't form like, but we still put all the love and work into it. We loved that picture we drew of Mickey Mouse or whatever like that. But it wasn't like, oh my God, I can never be apart from this picture of Mickey Mouse I drew. Like that's where you have to be free and loose with your approach to your work. Like that's where I'm at right now. Like I had to get back there because I went to a place of like being too attached to my work, of being too invested in it and being too detailed with it. So I hope that answers it. I don't know.
So I have a comment here. I think it's easy to let go of my work because people have literally cried over work that I thought knew had mistakes. I realize that what I think is perfect doesn't matter in terms of what people connect with.
Yeah. What I would say is that we as artists, we look at our work and we don't see the beauty sometimes, and we see the things we want to correct. So like recently, my grandmother turned 90 years old and they had a huge party for her. And everybody in my family had a job for the party. And mine was to create artwork and collages of family pictures for the tables. And they wanted me to make a painting of my portrait of my grandmother. So, all my family and all these people are going to be there for my grandmother's 90th birthday, and I had to create a portrait of my grandmother. And I like looked over every picture that I could, and I didn't want to do a picture of her when she was young. I wanted to have a picture of her kind of um in between. So I painted a portrait of my grandmother. And even up to the night before, I was still like messing with it. And I get it to my grandmother's birthday. They put it up on one of the main tables on the easel and everything. And everyone's coming in and saying how, oh, they love it. It's so beautiful and everything. And all I could hone in on is the parts that I wanted to change. And so like literally, hold on, let me close my door. Sorry about that. So yeah. So I made this painting for my grandmother, and there we go. And I got such good reception for it at my grandmother's birthday, but all I could see was the things I wanted to correct. And I have a cousin who does digital art and stuff like that. And I said, I made a comment to him. I was like, it's not really finished, like that. And he was like, what's not finished about it? So I think sometimes we can see imperfections and we can see things wrong with it. And other people just see it as gorgeous, or they just see it for what it is. Like, you make the determination in your head about how you want it to be, but from another person's standpoint, they can only see the artistry and the work, and you may feel like there's 10 more things you want to do to it, but a person will see it as done. They'll be like, it looks good, and that always happens to me. And a lot of times, like, even like when I like, if I'm painting at home, if my family comes and they look at my work, they'll be like, oh, that looks good. I hope you're not going to do anything else to it. And they even say that to me, them not even being artists, because they know that I'm going to keep messing with it, and they'll be like, don't bother it anymore. It looks good just like that. Don't fuss over it, So yeah, only an artist can see those things. Another person viewing your work and admiring your work, they will never see those things, because like I said, artists, as an artist, we hyper focus, and we'll be looking at 20 different things that we think are mistakes, or we think are something wrong with a painting or drawing or something, and nobody else sees that. It's because your mind is hyper focusing on the things you want to change versus seeing the beauty of what you already created. And like a prime example is when I was in college, one of my first projects in my design class was to create it was a creative design with 3 colors. I picked black, white, and red. And I drew this picture of like a big lollipop with a snail crawling on the lollipop, and the snail creating slime on the lollipop. And it was a swirl lollipop design. And in the classroom, my teacher loved it. And she was like, oh, you made a great design. When I got home, I literally drove myself crazy with the design that I like literally ruined it. And then when I got back to school the next time we had class, our teacher said, what did you do? Like, she said, it looked fine when you left. And like, I went home and agonized over it and ruined it to the point where I had to start again from the beginning. So sometimes we do that. We see the imperfections, and there really isn't any imperfection there. It's your mind overthinking, and your mind literally creating something that you wanted to make it look better when it already looks good, And so you have to really retrain yourself to not like be a perfectionist in that way, which is something that I did for so long, and like I'm moving away from that.
Question. What, when did you reach a point where you knew that you had to do art, even if you were, say, working in finance or whatever? At what point, what happened when you knew that you had to go and be an artist because that's what you were called to do? Like what, I guess, yeah, if say, for example, if you had a high paying like career and then, and you had to leave it to do art, what is that feeling like, leaving what you've been doing to follow your heart's desire? What is that process like?
So this reminds me of, I was in nursing school. So like after I had kids, and I was like, okay, I need to have a job that pays me well enough that I could like take care of my kids. So I went to nursing school, and like being an artist and knowing how to hyper focus on stuff. And I was doing so well in nursing school. I was on the dean's list, making straight A's. All my teachers were like just teacher's pet and all of that. And I remember one day leaving class for a break and going downstairs, and there was a art gallery downstairs in front of the school. And going in there, and I used to stand outside the gallery and look inside because they had big glass windows. And like this lady inside was like telling me, oh, come on in, come on in. And I was like, oh, I'm on break. I don't have a lot of time. So she's like, just come in for a second. And so she's like, you going to school upstairs? And I said, yeah. And I explained to her I was in the nursing program. And she basically told me that she was a nurse. She said she had been a nurse for 35 years and that she was an artist and that it was really difficult for her to do both things. She couldn't create the way at the level she wanted to and be a nurse. There wasn't room for both things in her world. And so she said she remembers like she was getting close to wanting to retire, and she saw that that gallery space had became available for sale, and she took her savings and bought that gallery, started a gallery school, and she never looked back. She teaches children all the way up to elders how to draw, paint, sculpt, everything under the umbrella of fine art. And she said she wished she would have did it 20 years before she did it. She said and I told her I was an artist. I had, introduced myself to her and everything. And she said, if you're not passionate about becoming a nurse, if you're doing it for the money, don't do it. She said, if you're an artist, that's what you should be pursuing, because you're just going to have resentment for the job and you're not going to want to be there. And it's not going to be fulfilling for you, because nursing is something you must be passionate about, because this is a job that takes a big toll on you emotionally and all other kinds of ways. And it opened my eyes a lot. And I was like a good ways through this nursing program. And I said, I don't want to, I'm not passionate about being a nurse. I'm passionate about getting the money to be what nurses make. And I felt like it was a job that I would be able to take care of myself and my kids with. And I said, I want to be I'm an artist. That's where my heart lies, but I didn't know how to make my artwork make way for me in my life at that time. And so I was just like, why did this woman tell me this story? Like, how did it come to be that I was put in front of her and for her to say that to me? Because it was so random that she had been a nurse and she was an artist, and she just, told me that story, and it really hit home for me. And I thought about it for days and days. I was like, that's not coincidental. Like, it's, I kept thinking about it. And at that time, I wasn't living in New York. And it just kind of like in sequence happened. I moved back to New York. I was initially going to pick up a nursing program here in New York, but New York City is harder to get into nursing programs than where I was living. And so when I got here, I was just like, I'm just going to pursue my artwork. And I started teaching here and there. Of course, I was working other jobs in with doing my artwork and stuff like that. And I started to fall a little bit away from doing my art because needing to make money. But then the whole thing happened with shutdown, and I had time to revamp my approach to how I wanted to keep my creative spirit, keep my artwork going, and it gave me time to think about it. And then it started to mull over. That mentor that I had that told me that, why are you working jobs that have nothing to do with you being an artist? You need to let your artwork make way for you. It's an obvious talent that you have been given, and you need to utilize it. So what I would say is that I'm not here to tell anybody to quit their 9-to-5. But if you're passionate about art and about creating, and that that's where your passion lies, you need to make that more than part of your time. Make the job part-time and make your art more, give your art more time. Pick out 2 or 3 days a week, 2 days if 3 is too much, that you focus on your passion projects, on your creating, because that's what keeps you thriving. That's one thing I would say. When I wasn't creating, I wasn't thriving. And so if you know in your heart that when you're not creating, you're not thriving, you're not yourself, you're not at your full power, you need to prioritize your creating. So it may not be easy at first, but I've known plenty of people, maybe they weren't painters, maybe they weren't creatives in that sense, that left high-paying jobs and stuff for their passion. Because, you know, at the end of the day, that's the thing that keeps you thriving. Because one of my friends, she always tells me a story about her dad working at a law firm, and he was making 6 figures, and he wanted to open up his own practice. And her mom, his wife, was like, "Oh no, you can't leave that 6-figure job behind." But he knew that he was passionate about having his own business. And so he just did it. And he wound up being wildly successful at it and still making 6 figures. So sometimes, you know, of course, weigh your options. Don't do anything without really having a plan of how you're going to make sure you can pay your bills and stuff like that. But I would say that even right now, I work part-time, and my other part-time that makes up a full-time schedule is me focusing in on my artwork and creating other things, whether it be my bath and body wellness company and creating my artwork, because those are things that keep me thriving. You know, if I spent all my time working at my job, you know, I wouldn't be happy, and I wouldn't be able to focus, because my mind would always be wandering towards, I wish I could be doing this and I wish I could be doing that. So, you know, I mean, I have so many stories about that. I mean, even like last summer, I met a young lady who was a lawyer, and because of the quarantine and shutdown, she had time to think about her job, and she took a nail tech course, and now she does nails, and she says she enjoys doing that more than she enjoys being a lawyer. So like, I think when you're passionate about something, your passions will come back. They will keep knocking and knocking and knocking until you choose to answer them, you know? And I'm like, if I like that really, oh, that's like really spoke to me, that she did, I don't know if she left her job as a lawyer, but she definitely she was pursuing becoming a nail tech full time. And this is a person that passed the bar. So I'm just saying, like, prioritize your art if that's something that keeps you thriving. I like, for me, it wasn't even a question, because I came back to New York because of my art. I could have stayed where I was living at, finished that nursing program, and been working at some hospital somewhere. But I was like, that literally from the earliest memories of my life, I knew that I wanted to create images and that I wanted to do artwork. So, you know, I couldn't deny that.
Awesome. So what you said, you can't create, you're not living. Is I kind of missed what you said about that, but the necessity of creating.
Mm-hmm. Well, some people, and I have friends with musicians, and I'm friends with other artists, and it's not even like, oh, I want to create something, so I'm going to. It's like they have to. They have to. They have to. They have to practice that instrument. They have to play it, or they feel like I remember a friend of mine saying to me, oh, they called me up and they said, oh, I'm not. They're foggy. Their brain is foggy. They're going through this and that. They were going through all of these different things going on with them, and they couldn't regulate themselves. And I was like, you need a project. Like, they're like, oh, I'm working with this person. I said, no, working, like, even if I'm painting a mural for some nonprofit or doing whatever, I need a project that's personal to me. Something I'm painting, not for anything, any particular reason, not because somebody commissioned it, not because I'm going to get paid for this. I'm creating this because this is what I'm going to create this because I want to. And it doesn't have to be monetized. Somebody's not buying it. I need to create it for me. And like, a lot of times we get lost in that, you know, like, that's what I'm saying. You have, like, some artists have to do what they have, what their talent is or their passion is. They have to do it, you know, and if they're not doing it, they don't feel right, you know. They'll start malfunctioning, okay, like a computer virus, like they start malfunctioning. So they have to do it. You have to, you know, it's what keeps them regulated.
I mean, that's so funny, but it's true. They will malfunction because that's like what they came here to do. And if you're
Mhm.
not doing what you came here to do, yeah, you're gonna malfunction.
Yep. I'm a living testament to that. You know, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me in my early years of being a mom because I was so focused on making sure my kids were being taken care of to the umpteenth. You know, like I wanted everything to be perfect for them and their clothes to be perfect. And I spent my every second hyper focusing on them to the point where I was like not doing anything that kept me thriving, you know? And so it got to a point where I had to start prioritizing myself and put, like, I think sometimes it's hard when moms are like, people are like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do as a mom. Yes, you're supposed to take care of your kid and everything like that. But when you're not putting yourself amongst the priorities, that's when it becomes an issue. Yes, your child is a priority. A lot of things are priorities, but you are amongst those priorities. Like, you have to put yourself amongst the priorities, because if you never do, then you start malfunctioning, you know, you start losing your identity, you start losing your focus. And you are, even though we have different um, titles and roles as we journey through this, you know, this ride, you could be a mom, you could be a wife, you could be a friend, you could be a sister, all different things. But you also have to keep your identity. Like, sometimes, like, you know how they say when you become a mom, you lose your name. Like, I'm Gevone, but like I was mom, or I was Molly's mom, you know, or they, you know, like they'll call you Zago's mom, you know, and you're like, I'm also Abna. Like, that's my identity as well. And I can't lose sight of that, because when you lose sight of that, you kind of you lose grasp on keeping your identity and the thing that keeps you uniquely you, because all those people in your life, whether it's your kids, your friends, your family, they also need to have you be you. They need the authentic version of you so that they can keep calling you mom and sister and all these other different titles you have. But the core person needs to be there and present. And that person needs to do the things that keep them thriving and keep them going, you know? And so that was a hard lesson I had to learn, you know, making sure I kept my identity and, you know, things of that matter.
Where can people find you? How can people find you? Will you be doing any classes? And can you just kind of reintroduce yourself for the people who've been joining since we started?
So I'm Gevone Alexandria. I am a multidisciplinary artist based in New York City, born and raised in the Bronx. And finding me, I'm on Instagram. I have a website as well. So my website is my name, Gevone Alexandria at .com. And then Gevone Alexandria on all platforms like Facebook and Instagram. And I am going to be doing some workshops soon, but those are going to be workshops with my bath and body wellness products. But I do plan for making some, for doing some classes, some art classes. You know, right now I'm still in the early stages of like developing it, but I would love, like, once I get it up and going, I'll be definitely posting that stuff on Instagram, kind of like doing artist meetups, that type of thing is something I'm looking forward to doing. But you can definitely find me on Instagram if you want to connect.
So are you looking to collaborate with other Bronx arts organizations
Yes,
or people in the Bronx that are doing art related work?
yes, 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 I am.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, so yeah, we did have comments here. Oh, let's see. I think I can't. Okay. Someone said, man, it was a really good one. I can't get to it. Okay. But someone says, as a professional face and body painter, my art is very fleeting. So I have learned to make it about the process, the smiles, and the moment.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely. So when I think about that, I think about like I'm dabbling in henna and things like that. That's why I say it's always important to be connected to the journey, because sometimes it is that you create something and you get to watch it, you know, in motion. That's the great thing about like body painting and, you know, even like a tattoo artist, you know, your work is not put on a canvas that you can physically keep, or like, you know, if that art may fade over time. So I got a similar feeling when I did the mural in Harlem, because it was in the street. And then, you know, we had to open the street up after a certain portion of time, and then cars drove on it and eventually it faded, you know? But it doesn't take away from that moment and that time and that energy when you were creating it. I think that makes it even more special because it was limited. That moment was limited, and it when it was gone, it was gone. But while you were there in the midst of it, it was everything, you know? So I think stuff like that is extra special.
Yeah, I the really good comment here, and but I think I scrolled up past it and I can't really see it, but I guess I'll tag you in the live. Can you talk very briefly, because I know we're almost burning the midnight oil on
Okay.
your holistic hygiene products?
Okay. So
The-
I'll talk.
Mhm.
Yeah. So basically before before the whole thing with COVID happened, I was working at a college, and I remember talking with my coworker all the time about creating soap. And so we used to talk about it all the time. And I remember she brought me a soap recipe to work one day, and I was like, oh wow. And it opened up my mind up to like really doing my own research about it, because I had thought about it for so long, creating my own products, you know. So eventually I went home and I started just doing a whole ton of research and realized that there was a lot of different processes to making holistic hygiene products. And then I've started to formulate like a way for me to make these things and keep the integrity of it being 100% natural, with no fragrance oils, no synthetic anything. And I did all the research. I filled up so many composition notebooks, just trying to create something that was authentic to what I wanted to sell. And I named my company Herb Beauty, and herbs being at the forefront and everything being infused with herbs, but mainly just keeping the integrity of nothing synthetic, no dyes, no fragrances, and no preservatives. And I had to learn how to do that, even with products that were water-based. And most products that are water-based have to have a preservative because water breeds bacteria unless you keep it in the refrigerator. So basically, that's how I started my journey, was through soap. I started making co-processed soap and selling it to my friends and family and coworkers and things, and it got really popular. And I was like, okay, people really like the soap. And then I started moving into making body oils, herb infused body oils. From there, I moved into making flaxseed gels for your hair, oral hygiene products like mouthwashes and toothpaste, and it just grew and grew from there. And it's still growing, and I'm always discovering something new that I can infuse with herbs and make that we can put on our body for our wellness and, skin benefits, but basically, um, that going down this journey has really led me to opening up, like any journey. Like when I started to be more conscious about what I ate, that made me more go down a journey of learning how to cook even more, because I've always was the cook in my family before, and then I had to learn how to cook healthy. When I went down that rabbit hole, it opened up my whole world, especially going to nursing school. I took nutrition classes, so it was even more so at the forefront of my mind to create things that were good for the body, that you ate eternally. And then the same thing when I started creating the wellness bath and body products, I was like, oh, okay, there's a whole world of bath and body stuff that you can make the same things that you buy in a store without all the junk in them. And I'm pretty sure this is how all of our ancestors and all of our, elders were making their bath products, because these books that I bought and stuff like that, they're just the same as old school cookbooks. So I'm sure that people were using these same methods to create soap, and there's recipes for making laundry detergent, just toothpaste, all kind of stuff. These companies out here, this was not the way that we used to take care of ourselves. Just the same way, like people say, oh, my grandmother, my great grandma, they made their own cold medicine or remedy for a cold. That was the remedy. There was no, up until like my generation, or maybe the generation before mine, there wasn't, these things weren't around. So they got created because out of convenience. And we forgot about the older ways of doing things, which were better for us and better for our health, because they didn't have all the junk and chemicals in them. Because now that it has to be made and monetized and made mass produced, they have to cut corners and they have to put in things to fill it up so that they can make enough for everybody to be able to buy 20 million tubes, So I think just going back to the basics and realizing that way is healthier and better for us is definitely been a journey that I love being on. And even like in recent times when I've been out in the public and talking about bath and body wellness, I started a self-care club, which I'm going to be blogging and writing stuff on very soon and sending out emails and putting stuff on Instagram, that want people, it's not about me just being able to sell my soap and sell my body butter or sell my oil. I want people to know that this is something that they can do at home, that they should be doing at home. Like, you shouldn't be going and buying stuff that has junk in it just because it's convenient to you, because like literally our skin is the biggest organ on our body. It absorbs 60% of what we put on it. And we have to treat it like it is the biggest organ on your body. If your skin reacted horribly to you putting a chemical on it, you wouldn't do it again. But because we don't see the damage that we're doing to our health with these things immediately, we think it's okay to let it accumulate over time and damage our health. So, just making people more conscious of it. You know, like tons of times when I'm out in the public and I'm like talking to people, and they'll be like, what kind of soap do you have for eczema? What kind of soap you have for psoriasis, or this or that they have going on? And they don't see the connection between what they're eating, their lifestyle, and what they're putting on their skin. It's not going to be, because we're so trained to like put something on it and make it disappear. Everything coincides with each other, from your diet to what you're using on your body. Like, for instance, eczema is an allergic reaction. Like, people don't look at eczema as an allergic reaction. They look at it like, oh, let me put some cream on it and make it go away. But literally, eczema is about what you're eating. You are allergic to something you are eating. And if you don't figure out what you're eating that you're allergic to, you're going to keep getting a reaction. But because the reaction is just an irritation on your skin, people don't take it as seriously as if somebody ate peanuts and their throat swelled up. Now you know I am not going to eat peanuts because I will literally stop breathing. So I'm not going to eat the peanuts. Or if I get stung by a bee, I'm going to not breathe. So I'm going to stay away from bees. If they took it serious like that, when it came to putting things in their body and on their skin that their body's reacting to, then they would definitely avoid certain things they're eating and not put things on their skin that was detrimental. But people have to open up their eyes to certain things like that, and that's what made me like so passionate about it. And with reading so many different things like titanium dioxide that's in our soaps, it's the same thing that makes your candy. That's why they're going to ban Skittles and Nerds and all these different foods out there now, because they have titanium dioxide in it. But your Ivory soap, your Dove soap, all have it in it. And it's a substance that's banned in so many countries but the US, and we continue to have it in everything that is in so many cosmetics and bath products. And literally, when I started learning about soap making and product making, I was going on YouTube and seeing people using it to make their soap. So it's something that is readily available. So like I decided I didn't want any kind of dyes in my soaps, so literally I wanted to create products that were void of all of that, just to give people a chance at something natural and show them that it is feasible and it can be done. Because 2 years ago, I didn't know how to make soap. Now I do. So it's something you could definitely do, I don't want to be too long-winded.
Oh, no, that's fine. And when will you be starting your self-care club classes? Someone said, oh no, not my Dove soap.
Yes, your Dove soap has titanium dioxide, and it's a known carcinogen that causes cancer.
Oh, titanium dioxide.
Yes, it's a substance that's white, and it dyes things white. So it'll dye your soap white, it dyes your clothes white. It's the white writing that you see on candies like Skittles. It takes pigments and like makes pink if you have red or pink. It's the white in everything. Just like red number 40, it's like the white of red number 40. White. Just like red number 40.
Titanium dioxide. Okay. Okay, so Sister Zariah, you can follow Gevone on Instagram or on Facebook and learn how to make your own natural, non-toxic soaps. Okay. Okay. Um, so again, what's your website? What can people find on your website? What can they find on your Instagram? And you have more than one Instagram.
I do. So I have my main my main Instagram, which is my name, Gevone Alexandria. So when you type in Gevone Alexandria, you're gonna find my art page and my personal page. The art page, I'm not as active on it. I'm active on my personal page, and sometimes I'm on my art page. So I'm not sorry, I'm getting confused. Sometimes I'm on my soap page, which is Herb Beauty Bars. So herb and beauty share a B, so it's one B, Herb Beauty Bars. And so, but if you want to reach me, Gevone Alexandria on my personal page. It's the page that has the soap making and bath bomb making on it and artwork. And I'm thinking about disabling those other pages just so there's no confusion of how to reach me. But and my website, you can go on and check out. There's no way to connect with me on that just as of yet. So definitely through Instagram is where I'm mostly at. And my Herb Beauty has a website as well. Right now that website is under construction, so I won't send anybody there right now, but the links and stuff is all in my Facebook. I mean, not Facebook, my Instagram bio. But Gevone Alexandria on IG is where you could definitely DM or find me.
And you are on Facebook as well.
Yes, I'm on Facebook, but I don't always go on Facebook. Sometimes I'm on IG mostly.
As everybody else is. Okay. Okay. Well, I know you said that you didn't know what you were going to say. You didn't have much to say, and you were concerned about what you were going to talk about. But I think you said a couple of things. I think you said one or two things
I,
in the
I
2
got
hours
through
and
it.
8 minutes we've been on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I told you before, when I start talking about art, I can like go off into so many different. That's why I said I need a focal point because I will go like everywhere. But I'm
There's
glad.
nothing wrong with that. That is, yeah. So, one place that you can see, Mr. Vaughn is, September 23rd in Co-op City, the, NCNW, the National Council of Negro Women's Health Fair. Mr. Vaughn will be there, and that's going to be September 23rd at the courtyard. That's kind of behind the Bartow Community Center. I know if you're like at the library, you'd go like downstairs. That's where that event will be. And also on Sunday, October 1st, at the Bronx Collab on White Plains Road at 222nd. She will be there for the Womb Chat, Love Your Womb, Love Yourself event. And maybe she'll be leading a workshop on womb art or drawing or creativity for your womb, but you can definitely see her there October 1st. And again, please follow her on Instagram or check out her her website. So yeah, we've definitely had a lot of people on Facebook. You'll be able to see that. I think your story really touched a chord with some people who could really relate to this, and knowing that they may think, oh, I can't draw, but I want to draw, I want to paint. So just pick up a utensil and start, basically.
Everybody starts from somewhere, and love the journey. Don't think about the skill set. Just think about the journey and creating work that you're proud of.
Because no one is an expert when they first start. So I definitely want to thank you for being here, for being the speaker for Transformation Thursday, week 142. Still surprised I got even 100 people to speak on a Thursday, but thank you very much for that. And so this Transformation Thursday, it happens at this point, just tune in, 7,
Yeah.
7:15, 7:30, 8, 8:30, just watch the Instagram or watch my Facebook. I'll be coming on eventually. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for hanging in there. And, for the people who've been like tuning in every week, I really, really appreciate you. And I hope that you've been getting something out of all of these weeks that you've been tuning in. And I have even more phenomenal speakers planned for the rest of the year. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. And remember, I'd always like to remind you, if no one's told you, or if you don't know, remember that you are stardust. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And the recording for this
Thank you.
will be on my Bronx Holistic Healing YouTube. I finally got the YouTube channel
Okay.
going up. Okay. Thank